Good morning, everyone all over this globe. How are you today? It's Getting It Done with Gratitude Thursday, and we are your hosts and extremely happy to be here. Well, I must share up front that Shelley had a beautiful idea for today's conversation. And I really hope that you guys are going to join us. We are talking about transitions. And I thought, really? Shelly must have been in my heart, my head, my soul, my everything, because I have done just about every transition. I was just telling her this. I went through a transition when my son left home. I went to college. I'm not going to kid you all. I cried all the way from Pearson's airport right back to Barbados. I really felt as if I was leaving a piece of me somewhere else in this big country. I transitioned when my marriage didn't work out. I have experienced so many transitions. And so I really understand how you feel going through a transition, how you feel on the other side, and how gratitude has really played a pivotal role in this. So, this is an exciting topic this morning because I'm sure as you listen to us, there are many transitions that you can think of that you have experienced. And we would love to know, how did you do it? What were some of the feelings and thoughts and experiences that you had? Because what we have learned and what we know to be a truth is that when we share our experiences, collectively we are stronger because we learn from each other and that we can all grow together. So, that's my little preamble. For those of you who don't know who I am and who are joining us for the very first time, we are so happy to have you here with us. And to all of you who have stayed the journey with us, thank you. Thank you and thank you again. I'm Karen Williams Thompson. I'm a life strategist and personal growth coach. And what I do is I help women in particular get absolutely clear on their why. John Maxwell says that there are 2 days that are truly important: the day that you were born and the day that you know why. And I help you get absolutely clear on the latter, why. And once we do that, we look at how can you step into that greatest vision that you have for yourself, that greatest version of you. How do you get to say yes to your dreams? By removing limiting beliefs, by quieting the naysayers and the doubts and the fears that are always lurking somewhere in our mind. And I help you to create a powerful strategic plan based on your vision and goals so that you can step into that fulfillment and freedom that you have been dreaming of and imagining for yourself. So, that's a bit of what I do, but we are talking transitions this morning. Shelly, how are
Mm.
you transitioning?
Yeah. Transitions, change. I mean, the words are connected, they're synonyms, and I feel like one of the reasons that thought came to mind about working with transitions is because we are going to be transitioning soon with this program. Because remember, the original commitment was for 1 year, 52 weeks, and today is episode 50. So that, yeah, we're at episode 50. So that means we have two more episodes to round out the year, and I'm feeling the tug of the change coming on. So that's what I really wanted to get into. And now for those who aren't familiar with who I am a gratitude guide and habit coach. And the thought of change when you're dealing with habits excuse me, the thought of change when you're dealing with habits is quite an interesting conversation because I am all about working with my clients to develop that daily habit of gratitude. So we look at dealing with the self talk so that it's more positive and supportive. We look at dealing with the tangible aspects of gratitude so that gratitude is practical and it becomes like a physical habit. And we also look at what it means to create that habit of gratitude so that you get that daily gratitude every day. Because what I've found is that when people hit 40, and I'm speaking primarily in the context of working women, professionals, and so on, but everybody. When we hit 40, what happens is that we feel like there's a change. And again, with the concept of the transition, something happened at after 40 that we feel like, we start to look around. Where am I? What have I done with my life? And then
Hmm.
most people reflect and think, I haven't done enough. I need to do more. And then they start piling on stuff because they want to do more. They want to accomplish things before time runs out. We get this keen
Hmm.
sense of time.
Hmm.
And then what happens is that they get overwhelmed and they get into burnout because they're adding and adding, thinking that that would solve the problem. When the solution really is stepping back and approaching the whole thing with gratitude to get that foundation. And then when you get that foundation with gratitude, you get more clarity, you get more energy, and you get more joy going forward. And so for me, navigating change with gratitude and dealing with these transitions is really a matter of refocusing with gratitude. And when it comes to the change, it's like we've all heard the saying, the only constant is change.
Yeah.
And it's really about the fact that things change all the time, even though some changes feel bigger than others. And that's what I really wanted to take a look at today so that everyone can understand that change happens. It's a fact of life, but we can navigate change a little bit more smoothly than we may have been. I know in my life, gratitude made a huge difference in terms of how I transitioned. And I feel like that's a big thing, especially with all the seasons and so on, because we're at the end. Well, we're coming to the end of March, and March, end of March is like the beginning of spring in certain countries. We feel it's the end of the academic term
Mm.
for a number of students and parents. They have major exams happening at this time. So it's just really the next couple months for many people really represent a huge change in what's happening with them. And certainly moms and parents would feel it for the students, the younger
Yeah.
ones moving forward. Yeah.
Yeah. And, as I listened to you, I thought change, change, change is the one thing that's going to come whether we are ready for it or not. Sometimes we get to plan for it, but quite a few times we don't. Quite a few times things happen in life and we have to be
Hmm.
able to respond respond to that. It does not announce that it's coming. And so transitions to me are so much a part of life. As you spoke, I thought, I focused on the transitions that impacted me in a big way, but there were also the little transitions. You transition from day to night, you transition from work to going back home. There are so many transitions that actually occur all day throughout the day for you. And how we
Yeah.
navigate this is really going to be quite important. It makes a difference. Let's put it that way. It really makes the difference for the outcome that you want. And what I know is that when you're going through a transition, one of the first things is the loss of the familiarity. And I thought
Yeah.
about it as you spoke about your students. Your students are going to be taking exams, but this is the end of their time with you right now. So they've been accustomed to being with you, they've been accustomed meeting twice a week, they're with Miss Shelley and they're doing their stuff. And all of a sudden, life is going to change for them. So it's about getting familiar with the unfamiliar. It's about navigating that I was looking forward that space in between the familiar and the unfamiliar as we go
Yeah.
from
I
there.
call it a gap. I call it the gap
I was
because
looking
it's
for
like,
something that sounded, I don't
yeah.
know, sexier, better, something.
Yeah.
But I was
When
like,
it comes to change, I don't know if you could get that sexier concept
well, I
because
could
it
try.
doesn't feel that way at all. It,
I
it
know.
feels very gritty and raw.
Yes. because what I was going to say is what comes up in there is anxiety. I
Yeah.
remember when my son was taking exams and the
Hmm.
anxiety. I remember the anxiety going to the exam. I remember the
Hmm.
anxiety waiting for the results. And there's also fear. For some people, it is really a fearful time. And so you ask yourself, we have to go through transitions. So, how can we go through them in a way that is better for each of us? And I think one of those ways is about reflection and acceptance. It's
Hmm.
about taking
Hmm.
time to reflect on the upcoming transition if you can. So for you, your students have an opportunity to reflect on that,
Yeah.
because for some you can, and for some can. And it's then about acknowledging. It's about acknowledging how you feel. What are the emotions that are coming up for you? What are some of the concerns that you're having about going into this transition? The fact that I'm not going to have you there to guide me, etc. So what are some of the things that are really coming up for you, and those range of emotions, and understanding how those feelings, understanding those feelings and allowing that to help you to navigate the gap.
Hmm.
Because
Hmm.
you would be familiar, everyone may not, but you would be familiar of my 3 A's. And so it's having the awareness, it's acknowledging, and it's taking the action. And one of the actions we can take is gratitude, is
Yeah.
practicing gratitude, because the beautiful thing about gratitude that we've heard over and over again is its capacity for helping us stay focused on the present.
Yes. Yeah.
So that
It
is,
gives
I
us
mean, if we
pause.
don't take anything else, that is the biggest. Sorry, Cheryl, go ahead.
Yeah. No, no, no. What I was saying, I didn't mean to cut you. What is gratitude when it comes to change and navigating change? Gratitude helps us take pause because sometimes when the change is happening, if we lean into it too quickly, then we can take action and keep going and so on. And we get that's when the burnout and the overwhelm really steps in when we feel like the change is taking over us and we are no longer um, cognizant or conscious of what's happening. We are not an integral part of the process. It's just kind of happening to us. And that's where we really get into the burnout and the overwhelm. And so with gratitude, the I guess the superpower aspect of gratitude is that it really helps us pause and
Mm-hmm.
take stock, and it gives us that beautiful, joyous energy of recognizing what is and how we can possibly benefit from things and how the change is happening, how we can navigate it and so on. It gives us that opportunity to really think, even with unexpected change, taking that moment to express the gratitude. It allows us to step back and recognize that yes, there are painful aspects of this that we are going to be dealing with, but it's happening. So how do I move forward? It gives us that moment, that gap. So the gap, while it is intense and really um, often filled with anxiety and dread because of the unknown, it also gives us pause. So the gap gives us a moment to pause as well. And so when it comes to that, and for me, being a teacher, what happens is that I have that transition and that change. It's like clockwork because we have the term periods, we have the end of the term, and so on. But also, what happens to me because I am a tutor after school, I do private lessons. Sometimes students don't stay for the entire term. Sometimes they get ill. Sometimes all kinds of things happen. And so, even within the constant, set time periods, there are unforeseen issues that come up that we do have to navigate.
Mm-hmm.
And gratitude has been really helping me work with it because for the ones that I know about, I recognize the need for the change and how important it is. And I'm grateful for the growth and so on that's happening. And for the unforeseen ones, I am also grateful for the growth because I believe every change is an opportunity for growth. And so, because I see it that way, I sit back and I'm grateful for the opportunity, and that helps infuse the calm that allows me to navigate the change. And I hadn't necessarily thought about it too much before preparing for this session. Um, but working with habits and talking about change kind of feels like two opposites.
Yeah.
But as a habit coach, I recognize that we have to sort of anticipate that there will be change while we are developing the habits. And the only way to really institute and develop a habit successfully is planning for the fact that there will be change and sort of anticipating the possibility of change and putting in systems and concessions for that. And so, you mentioned the unforeseen change. I think if we work with the expectation that there will be change,
Hmm.
then that's like the first step toward um not necessarily being prepared for something unforeseen because we don't know what's going to be coming, but we are creating um a recovery system that allows
Hmm.
us to deal with it. And that's where the habit coaching comes in. So when my clients, lots of people, they want new and they want different, but how do they get there? They have to go through change. They can't do the
And yeah,
same thing over and over and get different results. So
yes.
there has to be change. So the entire process of developing new habits and letting go of the habits that no longer serve us, that entire thing is about change.
And as I listened, I thought really that habits are about change because you're
Hmm.
changing the way that it was before and you transition into the new way to get the results that you want. And so it's really about identifying the shifts and the
Yeah.
changes in the role, when you are transitioning to a new job, your environment changes. So it's about adjusting then to a new environment that you now have to get to know, become familiar with, and create your own space
Hmm.
within that new space. And it's the same thing for other transitions. You have to identify the shifts that are going to be needed when you are in a relationship with someone and then that person is no longer there. Then there is a transition where you now have a different role altogether. Your role changes because you have to assume different responsibilities. You then you have different roles within other relationships. And
Hmm.
so all of those things can be unsettling
Yeah.
because often what we don't know sometimes scares us, and that is really something that keeps people from stepping forward for their goals because they keep telling themselves they need to know how it's going to work, they need to have all of the details. But what I know for a fact is you don't
And
need
you
to know
never
how.
do, but you never have all
Exactly.
the details.
So therefore, you just need to take the action. So acknowledge the shift, acknowledge that this is what it is, and acknowledge your feelings and do something about it. And that's really what
Yeah.
I love about the 3 A's that I use with my clients because it's such a simple step. Awareness, acknowledge, action, but it can help you just take those little steps that lead to a big outcome.
Hmm.
And when you think about transitions too, think about the lo- logistics. The word was just there on my tongue for some reason. Because you go to a different school, there's the logistics then involved of travel in that. You might be moving house, so you're transitioning from one state to living somewhere else. You got to make all of those. So transitions are something that are so much a part of our life, and therefore having having the grace with yourself, creating a plan wherever you can create a plan. You're always going to hear us say create the plan. The plan isn't set in stone, but what
Yeah.
it does, it's a guide, it's a framework, and it at least gives you some focus and some accountability. So really and truly have a have support. Don't feel that you have to do it alone.
Oh yeah,
Ask for
that's
help.
a big thing for me because
Yes.
I think lots of times people feel like when they're going through stuff that they have to keep it to themselves and they have to figure it out. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that, we talk about adulting, people transitioning from, they what one stage in life to another. And the whole idea of adulting, some people believe that when you become an adult, it means you have to do it alone because now you're the adult
Mm-hmm.
and you have to make the decisions and you have to take the action. So therefore, you need to know. And because of that, they feel like they have to do it alone because that's what adults do. Adults, when we were children and we looked at adults, we believe they have it all together and they know all the answers and so that when we grow up, if nobody sets us straight, we grow up thinking that as an adult, we need to have all the answers and we need to make all the decisions. And then we get stuck in this cycle of distress because we're internalizing and we're not reaching out for the support. So I think that for me, it comes up every single conversation
Mm-hmm.
because of how important it is to recognize that we are part of communities, we are part of families, we are part of groups, and we're not ever meant to do everything on our own. So I just had to jump in and say that because I think that's like a key issue when it comes to dealing with everything, navigating change, development, anything that we're working with. Yeah.
Yeah. And actually having that support, whether it's a coach, a mentor, family, a loved one, knowing that you have some sort of emotional support just reaffirms for you, I am not alone.
Hmm.
And for some people, that is all that they will need, just to understand I am not alone. You don't have to do this by yourself, you don't have to do it on your own. Any journey traveled is that much richer, better, quicker when it is shared. And so, if you take nothing else from us, remember that you don't have to do it alone.
Yeah.
You really don't have to do it alone. And because feeling alone can be so isolating, and
Hmm.
that's really not what it's about. And that's where again your gratitude comes in. Because if you focus on what you are thankful and appreciative of, you are less likely to be thinking all the time about what you're leaving behind or what has changed or what has shifted, because you're being very intentional about where you are in this moment. You're being very intentional about where you are going. And that's the beauty of gratitude and having that reflective pause in there, because you just get to zoom in and see this is where I am, and be truthfully happy and excited and in the moment of that, rather than looking back and getting caught up in what was, because what was is no longer a part of what is, and you can't go back now and change what was.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
focusing on where you are and where you're going is really what's going to get you through the transition, and taking one step at a time. We don't have to go up the whole staircase one time, just one step at a time, and you're going to get to the top and you're going to get through that transition. And in that, you're fostering that thing that we talk about all the time, resilience.
Yeah. Yeah. And
And go ahead.
while you were speaking, what I thought about is that when we're going through difficult times, recognizing that this too shall come to pass
Mm-hmm.
is also an aspect of being able to navigate change. And when we think about change, sometimes we think about changing to something, and there's almost this sort of undercurrent that that thing is permanent. We don't say it out loud, but we do get this sort of feeling that I'm leaving something behind and I'm going to something else. And during that period, the idea of that something else is it feels like letting, this is going, but that is staying. But that thing that we're going to, there's also going to be change with that. And then when we get to that other space, there's also going to be change with that. So we say out loud that the only constant is change, but we don't necessarily feel it when we're going through change because of the fact that we're thinking about what's being left behind, and this new thing looming ahead feels permanent. But that too will change, and that too will shift. So whether it's pleasant or unpleasant, that too will change. So then we have some choices to make.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's pleasant, we enjoy it to the fullest because we know change is coming. If it's unpleasant, we can endure because we know change is coming. And so whatever is happening, there's a way to deal with it and be grateful for that possibility and opportunity and shift that change is coming. So sometimes just being grateful for the fact that there is change can make a difference in how we move forward and how we see things.
And celebrate, everyone.
Oh,
Celebrate.
yeah.
As you are going through the transition, celebrate every tiny, and I mean, it don't matter how small it is,
Hmm.
celebrate the milestones. Sometimes we think or we tell ourselves we have to wait until we've done it all and it's all together and have a celebration. No, 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 no. You will never hear Karen ever say that. I love a little fun. I love an occasion to celebrate. If they don't have one, I sure I can create something. So
Hmm.
let's celebrate the occasions. Recognize the progress that you made. Acknowledge to yourself the steps that you have taken, the actions that you have taken, because it is not easy. So be gracious with yourself, be kind to
Hmm.
yourself. And all of that is also being practicing gratitude, because you cannot pour from an empty cup. So you have to fill the cup that is you, and you can
Yeah.
do that by being gentle with yourself. You can do that by being gracious with yourself. You can do that by celebrating yourself, because you are making these milestones. All transitions are not bad things. A lot of transitions are also wonderful things. And so celebrate. Celebrate you and the achievements that you are making, the actions that you are taking, because you then are stepping into your fullest potential. And isn't that what we are here to do? To step into the
Hmm.
brightest star of who we really are and who we want to be and how we want to be seen. So
Yeah.
celebrate and celebrate.
And even, what you said just now about transitions being, some transitions being unpleasant, the transition itself might be unpleasant, but the growth and the
Oh,
development that come
also
with it, that
beautiful.
part of it, that's the part that you can hold on to. And we don't always have
Absolutely.
to jump for joy because some of these things are painful and unpleasant. We're not
Mhm.
jumping for joy about the unpleasant aspect of it, but we are recognizing that silver lining and the possibilities, the opportunities that can come. So even as we acknowledge the pain and the distress, we also acknowledge that this will pass, and there is going to come a time when I'm going to look back on this,
Yes.
and at that time I'm going to feel different, feel better about the whole thing, even though it's unpleasant now. And for me, what that does is that it brings hope. And
Mhm.
that's where I feel like gratitude and change really they come into contact in the most productive way,
Mhm.
because what is happening is that we're bringing hope to situations, even pleasant situations where we think, oh, this is lovely, there is still a bit of anxiety because of that change.
Mhm.
And when we look at it this way, there is hope that things are better, there is growth, there is development. And for me, that is really how you essentially get it done with gratitude. That's
And
that's just it.
that's the truth. You know, it really really struck a note for me as you were talking about the growth through the transitions, because I sit here with you where I am today because of all of those transitions. I get to show up as the coach and mentor that I am because
Hmm.
of all of those transitions that stretched me, that catapulted. Because sometimes I didn't think I
Yeah,
stepped. Sometimes I felt as if I was literally thrown out of my comfort zone. Those transitions have really shaped and helped me to really step into the fullness of who I am. And it really, what you said is really very, very true. The transition itself may have hurt, and there was, you know, there would have been some pain and some anxiety and some fear, especially fear of that unknown and wondering, can I, will I, all of those questions that come up. But when you are on that other side, having taken the action and gone through the transition, that growth is phenomenal, and that's what you
yeah,
celebrate.
yeah. And
Thank
and
you for
and the
saying that.
and the feeling, the accomplishment, there's a
Hmm.
lot happening, really, really a lot happening. And
Yes,
so when I've often wondered, lots of people think of coaching as, finding answers and solutions and all of that. But what we do as coaches is really help people navigate the change with compassion, with self-love, with clarity, so that they can
definitely.
really step into who they are and who they're becoming. And so as we close off, I think that's the point that I want to end on,
Hmm.
because it's like, don't fear the change. Even if it's unpleasant, don't fear the change, because there is growth, there is development somewhere in there. And you know that it will come to pass. Even this period of change will come to pass. And there will be joy at the end. There will be joy continuously. And when you do it with gratitude, there is always joy and peace and
So true.
clarity and understanding moving forward. So I want to encourage everyone to think of change a little bit differently. If you're struggling with it, or you're going through some stuff, take a moment, take a deep breath, be grateful for life. Even in unpleasant moments, be grateful for life and recognize that everything indeed comes to pass. And the only way that we really can navigate with joy is through gratitude. So, have a good one, everybody. And thank you for joining us. We shall see you next week. And we're going to be wrapping up because, like I said, change is coming for us as well. So, we look
Oh,
forward to that. Take care.
have a
Enjoy
great
the week.
day.